two-tailed one? How do we find
Can't do two-tailed with task-worm.
But for like the other ones.
How do you what?
Find p-value again, just multiply by 2.
If you run a test in your calculator, you choose not equal to,
Uh-huh.
and so it multiplies by 2 for you.
Okay.
If you do it by hand, then you'd have to multiply by 2. Other questions? Just trying to think of really general things. When's the only time that I use that?
Test purposes.
And I should clarify, it's when it's a 2 sample, but that's all we're dealing with right now. So that would be p hat c. How do you find p hat c?
x1 plus x2 over n1.
What's the difference between how do I know if that is a matched pairs or a 2 sample test or 2 sample means? And so with the context, I am going to see what, I know I have no context up here, so you only use context figured out. But if the context were making it match pairs, explain that to me with these up here.
You could circle.
So why would I choose to circle this? Because those two are together for some reason. There's a reason to put those two together. It's not just that if I could rearrange these 3 numbers and it wouldn't make a difference with context at all, then it would not be matched pairs. It's only if like this is person number 1 or something like that. And I have been vague with those on a lot of the examples on purpose. Usually that's a lot more obvious that it's matched pairs. What?
Can you do one of the ones with gold?
With what?
With gold in it? Because I understand like everything that's written on there for gold, and then like when we have to use it.
Your calculator does most of it for you. Somebody find one of the ones in the review that uses gold. Number 2, the one's magnetic shoes, right? Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So on this sheet, that's not a front and the back, chapter 10, I'm basically just going to go through and do calculator practice with it. So we have 2 different, like if I'm writing stuff down on my paper, I've got 2 different groups. What's one of the groups? Like it's a 2 sample. What's one of my samples?
Magnetic and non-magnetic.
All right. So how many do I have? What's my success? Decrease in pain. So how many successes did I have with magnetic? How many successes did I have with non-magnetic? How many total did I have with magnetic? And then non-magnetic? All right, so let's just go ahead and skip straight to the calculator itself.
Yeah, I just get confused with the do.
That's what I figured.
You have to write it too, though.
Yes, but if I go through this, then I can go backwards to see what you want me to cover other than that. Okay, so where do I go on my calculator? What's my first button I push on my calculator? Stat, and then what? Tests. So I'm definitely at stat tests. which option, the one that show up are tests. I'm running a test. Which option is it?
Well, how do we know if this one is Z or T?
You don't need to think about that. Why do you not need to think about if it's Z or T? Because this one is proportions, and proportions you don't have an option. So that is option number 6. So your X1 was 17. What was your N1? 54. What's your X2? 18 and 41. So right now, I have to decide which one of these it is. When I decide not equals to, and I am running a test, that tells the calculator that it needs to be pulled. I do not have to make that decision. So when I hit calculate, it gives me my Z, which is my test statistic. It gives me a P, which is my what? P value. It gives me my P hat 1, my P hat 2, and what is just the P hat? P hat C. And it gives you your N1 and N2 again, but we've already typed those in.
How do we know it was the not equal to? What part of the problem?
Do the data provide any evidence of a difference in the percentage? It does not say anything about one of them being higher than the other one. So,
okay, so then how do we write it for the do portion?
Okay. So, just like the equation part.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so where do I?
Or on our test, do you want us to like write the equation and then fill in all the stuff, or just write the equation?
Okay, so for this one, it would make sense to be M and N. This is M is 17 over 54. This is P hat N. What else would I need up top? What else? P hat C. So I would probably take the time to write this and write and either write that as a fraction or write what it gives me on my calculator. What else do I need since it's a test?
2 tests.
And
Alpha equals 1.45.
so now when I'm filling out my generic equation part, it is a test, so I'm finding a test statistic. What would I write here? Something's on top. What's on top?
P hat N minus P hat N
Which I would have had to define somewhere else. Technically, it's this what?
minus
And then what about the bottom?
square root P hat C 1 minus square root
And what my subscripts were. And then same thing over here, except
the other subscript.
my other subscript, my other end.
And on our test, do you want us to write this generic one, or do we write it all in? Fill
I'm
in?
fine with this because everything is very clearly written up there.
And then what that's in our. So we don't even have to fill that in, right? We can
No, you go from here straight to the number.
to our
Straight to your test statistic number.
which would be what's it labeled under? Is it labeled under Z? Z. Thank you.
Anything else that y'all can think of right off the bat that you want me to go over? For the most part, I kind of want y'all working. I did want to talk a lot and go over stuff together, but I think y'all started at different places on Friday or Tuesday, and are at different places now. So I think y'all are going to get more out of working on your own than working with me.